probably agree on.
Yeah, the playoff team for sure.
So do you.
I mean, I tell you what, I don't think there was a more accurate state. And
if they struggle again, I mean, I don't think there's any way you can keep Alex Critch, but.
What's going on, y'all? Bud Elliott here. It's another edition of my college football summer school series, thanks to our 24/7 sports experts. And when I do some Cal coverage, I go to Bear territory. My man Jackson Moore is back for yet another episode of summer school. Probably going to set the record for most summer schools attended, man, because, you know, since you cover so many programs that you do for us on the West Coast and do a great job of it. Welcome back to the show.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate that.
Absolutely, man. So, Cal, interesting year last year, a little bit up and down, and now they are embarking on their maiden voyage to their new conference, the ACC, which, if we had said, about 18 months ago, I don't really think any of us would have believed that Cal was going to the ACC. That's literally like the wrong coast of the country, but here we are, and I look over this roster. I see some potentially encouraging signs. I wanted to ask you, are they going to look materially different on either side of the ball?
There's quite a bit of personnel changes, but it should look pretty similar the way that they're going to implement those players. At receiver, it could be a whole new starting group with Jeremiah Hunter going to Washington. You've got Monroe Young graduating. They brought in Tobias Merriweather from Notre Dame, Mikey Matthews from Utah. They've got a deep class of portal receivers, and they've got some new pieces behind Jaden Ott at running back. Darius Callaway from Old Dominion. He's going to bring a different element to the running game. So different faces, but this team should – it's going to try to operate as kind of a next level from where they built on last year.
Excellent. What they brought in yet another quarterback, and they already had a couple of returners. Can you kind of sort through the quarterback situation with me here?
Yeah. So you've got Fernando Mendoza back, who got out of there as a redshirt freshman. Just he had a really good spring, had a decent fall, and eventually he got his shot and never let go of it. And now they bring in Chandler Rogers, who's a grad transfer. He spent some time at a couple different schools, coming from North Texas, had really efficient numbers. And now you put those two together, and the competition was pretty even during the course of spring. So it feels almost like last year, where you didn't really know what was going to happen at this time of year, but I think they have a higher quality transfer in than they did last year, and now Mendoza's a year better. So it's going to be a battle between those two, and I think they're going to be better off either way it turns out.
Are you surprised Mendoza didn't take offense, but like he stuck around, after he was a starter for much last year, that they went out and brought in a transfer who, I assume would also kind of expect to start?
Mendoza is a very unique personality, and when I talked to him early at his time at Cal, it's just like, man, this guy this seems like he should be Cal's starting quarterback. And eventually he started to look it on the field too. Not surprised that he wasn't fazed by the situation. I also think Cal has just kind of fostered an environment where they're going to hit the portal hard. They're going to try to elevate each position unit each offseason, whether you're a starter or whether they just are really needing players at a position. So it also helps that Rogers kind of just has the 1 year. So if it's Rogers, it feels like they go right back to Mendoza the next year. He's still got some more eligibility. So it's a good situation, but you would have liked to have seen, I think, one of them kind of emerge over spring instead of this same spot where you don't know which way it's going to go this fall.
For ACC fans who have not really watched much Cal in recent years, who are some guys that probably won't, get all ACC recognition to start the year, but maybe should and have a decent chance to be there, by the end of the season?
Yeah, potentially someone from the receivers unit. As mentioned, they brought in a lot of players, and there's not really a baseline for where they stand at Cal. I think you're going to have some big numbers from new guys, but probably Merriweather and Matthews, who are new additions there. Even if you're in the ACC, I hope you know about Jaden Ott. Yeah. If you don't know about him, he'll probably be on that list at the end of the year.
He's probably the best back in the league.
Yeah, so get familiar with him in a hurry if you're not. Maybe defensively, they're bringing in a couple of inside linebackers as well, much like the receiver unit. There could be an all-conference type player. That is a position that Cal has historically produced all-conference players. So they're bringing in a transfer from UC Davis, Teddy Buchanan. Liam out of Princeton. They've got some weapons there. Kedu Uluave, who emerged as a true freshman last year, may retain his starting position even with some transfers in. So that's a position that could produce an all-conference player for sure.
Is there a position on this team that you're like, oh, this is way better than it was last year?
I'm excited about the cornerback unit. Noah Williams is back, but they went out and got Marcus Harris from Idaho. I didn't know a whole lot about him, and he was just stellar this spring, much like the spring Noah Williams had last year, just making a ton of interceptions and forcing turnovers. And now we saw Harris do that this spring. He had a vertical route that he was defending in spring practice. He backhand one-handed the pick. I don't think they got it on camera. I don't remember seeing it on social media, but that was like one of the most spectacular plays I've seen in spring camp. So they haven't really had a 1-2 punch like that since Gerald Alexander had the takers in the secondary, had a bunch of interceptions, a bunch of NFL players. So I think the cornerback unit could be a lot more dangerous this year than it's been the last couple seasons.
At the down lineman position, I mean, they seem to have a whole lot of dudes who are juniors and seniors who are at or near 300 pounds. And Cal, they often had a decent D line. Is there anybody there who could be like the real standout for this group, or is it more kind of just like a total team effort?
Yeah, they've ran it really deep. I mean, 6, 7, 8 guys just in those two positions that they've rotated in and out, and they haven't really had that star player. Ricky Correa kind of leads the group. They're bringing in a couple of transfers. Maybe someone emerges through there, but I think that is one area where they are eager to have some improvements. We'll see if that happens or not. I know that the outside backer, the edge positions, they are pretty darn talented. So they can get some help in the interior. It definitely changes things for them.
Linebacker seems like inside linebacker seems very much rebuilt. What's your confidence level there?
Yeah, I think Buchanan coming in, he's should be kind of the centerpiece of the defense. Unfortunately, didn't get in time for spring. Had to finish up some academic things, but so this past spring there was 3 freshman early enrollees who pretty much got like all the first and second team reps just about. So excited to see that group at full strength in the fall. They got a short window to get it right, but I think they've got the talent. The first 3 guys there should be pretty solid.
This Cal schedule is interesting. I mean, you start UC Davis, have to give Auburn the return trip from when they came to the Bay Area last year, and then host San Diego State, at Florida State in September, which will be really hot, as will the Auburn game, obviously, as I bumped the microphone unnecessarily. And then host Miami, a road trip to Pitt, host NC State, hosting a very much rebuilding Oregon State team, at Wake Forest, host Cuse, host Stanford, and then at SMU. What's like the best case you can see for this Cal squad?
Yeah, I think this time last year we talked about what the ceiling might be for Cal, and I said it was probably 6 wins. That is where they ended up. But it's not because I thought Cal was a 6-win team. It's because I thought they had a 6-win schedule. Just the top end of the pack was at another level. They faced like 5 ranked teams in 6 weeks. It just wasn't advantageous. So you look at this schedule, they're in the ACC. There's less of that upper echelon, and at least currently with the way things shake out. You're only playing 8 conference games. You're going to miss some of the elite teams with so many teams. The non-conference is maybe a little more favorable. So, there's a lot more gettable games. So there's no reason why they can't get to 7, 8, maybe 9, if things go real right. And at the same time, kind of the middle of that schedule, there's a lot of teams that aren't gimmies either. So I think the over-under is at 6.5. There's a case where they could go under that, but there's more room for them to hit a higher win total than last year for sure.
Is there a guy on this team who clearly has high level ceiling and potential that if he can hit that potential this year, maybe a year before everybody expects him to, that it would change their fortunes?
Probably the receivers. I mean, again, there's quite a few that they can go to. It's a deep room. And so that makes you wonder, is there one guy that's just going to have a huge season? And if that happens, that does change a lot for this offense. It opens up the run game more. If it's 5 or 6 guys that all have 400 or 500 yards, there's probably not as dangerous of a team unless outside of one guy really stepping up there. And I think Merriweather and Matthews are the favorites to do that.
Is there a position battle you're most excited to cover this fall?
I'm excited about the O-line. They bringing in 4 transfers, and only one of them competed in the spring. So one was injured, 2 are coming in here as summer transfers. So the O-line could look completely different theoretically than it did in the spring. And they have so many weapons at the position units or the skills positions where that O-line can really change how the season goes depending on how strong it is.
Is Wilcox under any actual pressure there?
I don't think so. This is a chance, though, I think, where the last couple of years in the Pac-12 have been so difficult. There's been a ceiling for that team to hit, but there's also kind of been an understanding that it's there. So this is a year where they have a chance they can really exceed expectations. If they go under 6 wins, it's going to be more disappointing, I think, than it's been the last couple of years. So this kind of sets the tone, I think, for how much longer this is going to go on or not.
For sure. Jackson, really, really appreciate the time today, man. We'll be following Bear territory for sure. I look forward to reading all your work.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely.